The Democrat Party's in full meltdown mode, and it's not just political, it's existential. Their carefully constructed facade is crumbling in real time. A woman at a recent hands-off protest admitted that she was paid $25 an hour to show up with specific instructions. No red clothing, no MAGA gear, must carry a sign. This is not grassroots activism. It's astroturfed theater paid for by dark money groups desperate to create the illusion of opposition. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, when confronted by Jake Tapper about running Biden despite his obvious mental decline, deflected. We may have made a mistake, but let me tell you about Trump. That's not leadership. That's a party without answers. Mark Cuban admitted he backed Kamala Harris solely because she wasn't Trump, knowing that she was a terrible candidate, but lying to Americans anyway. Yeah. So as Democrats struggle with declining energy and fading relevance, Chuck Norris shows what true vitality looks like at age 84. While paid protesters need $25 an hour to fake enthusiasm, Chuck's natural energy allows him to keep kicking, working out, and staying active without artificial stimulants. Democrat leaders might be walking away from their base in disgust, but Chuck's wife feels 10 years younger and enjoys real, not manufactured vigor. The left's collapse stems from ignoring three critical failures, the same three things Chuck discovered sabotage our bodies as we age. Discover his method at chuckdefense.com/next. Before the video disappears. It's linked below. Okay, just how bad is it? How bad is it? I'm going to show you just how bad it is. How uninformed these people are.
Riley Gaines. Why do you think that Riley Gaines is transphobic?
Well, I don't really understand the question.
What has she done that makes you think that?
Isn't she advocating against trans people in sports?
How does that make you transphobic?
Insinuating that a group of people should not be allowed in locker rooms or polite society, the ultimate conclusion of that is essentially eugenics. Where exactly is she advocating that they go to?
Have you ever heard her story about how she was in a locker room and a naked man with a schlong ripped it out into a girl's locker room?
And how terrible. And that shouldn't have happened. Absolutely.
That's what she's advocating against.
And so,
why do you think that Riley Gaines is transphobic?
I don't think that we need to have schlongs in the women's locker rooms. Here's Jake Tapper talking with Tim Walz.
For real-life.
That is horrific, but we don't do a good job of telling that.
Don't you think your party needs to acknowledge that President Biden was not up for the job of running for re-election and that this was a major mistake by the
He made that decision.
I know, but you all went...
He made that decision. Actually, he was pressured. He was pressured to make that decision. All right, they were going to invoke the 25th Amendment. Obama, Clooney, Pelosi, all behind closed doors. Don't play us for fools, Timmy boy.
For the job of running for re-election and that this was a major mistake by the
He made that decision.
I know, but you all went along with the idea that he was up for it and he wasn't. And everybody saw it and the country rejected it.
Yeah, well, look, history will tell us to go back on that. That very well could be the case, Jake. What I'm concerned about is learning from those lessons. I would hope we would never do it again, make a mistake, make sure we go through and get someone. But I don't know where it helps us going forward. I certainly am deeply concerned that Donald Trump is going to lead us down a horrific... Look, thank God it's tariffs that he said. Donald Trump listens to no one. Remember, Donald Trump has statements about, I don't think nuclear war would be that bad. I guess we're lucky that he went after tariffs instead of that route. Yeah. We have an issue in this country that is going to impact us. And if there is not a loyal opposition, if there's not some soul searching on our side, if there's not reaching out to those folks who are in the streets, they're leading right now.
So quick question.
I would tell everybody, you better get with them. Yeah.
Quick question.
Yeah, sure, Timmy. Sure thing. Here's a woman. She was a paid protester, apparently, at a hands-off protest and details what she had to do to get paid. Oh, you ready for this? Here's a confession.
I was one of the paid protesters at the April 5th liberal protests. And so I just wanted to come on and talk about my experience, what I had to do to get paid, and how much I got paid. So there were two kind of parts to it. The first was obviously just showing up. They gave me like a time and a place and told me to look for a girl with blue hair and a nose ring, which like I thought would be really hard because I thought like everyone was gonna look like that. But luckily she was the only one. It was really easy to find her. So yeah, that was good. I checked in. They told you that you couldn't wear anything MAGA. They also asked you not to wear red. So I just wore a black t-shirt and jeans. And yeah, I checked in, and then they said just like go on the march. And then at the end, there would be like a questionnaire to answer. Oh, and then the other thing is they said they would pay extra if you brought a sign. So I did bring a sign. Again, same thing, like couldn't be MAGA, had to like be in line with like the liberal agenda. So my sign said, everyone deserves a good education, which like I don't necessarily personally agree with. Like if you're gonna be a server or like a mechanic, like you don't really need an education, but I wanted to fit in. I wanted the money. And I didn't want to like draw attention to myself. So that's what I went with. So anyways, I went on the march, and then at the end I had to check back in, and that's when they gave me the questionnaire. And okay, the interesting thing is like you had to answer the questionnaire as if you were a liberal, and there were right and wrong answers. Like it wasn't just like whatever you thought. Like you could get the questions wrong, and you had to get them right in order to get paid. At this point, I had already invested like 2 hours of my time, so I wanted the money, you know? So the first question, for example, was why do Republicans want more women to stay home and not work and not have jobs? And again, I just kind of like had to put myself in like their mindset. So I wrote basically like if women don't have jobs or job experiences, and they have to rely on men financially, and that gives men a lot more control over their lives. For example, like, you know, if like she's in an abusive situation or whatever, she can't really leave, especially if she has kids. She doesn't really have the means to take care of them, and she doesn't have the experience to get a job that could like afford to take care of them. So it just gives like the men a lot more control to kind of do what they want her to do, basically. So that was my answer for the first one, and I got that right. But there were some that I just like didn't really know what they would consider a right answer, you know? So I just asked, I was like, what do I do if I don't know how to answer this? And she said, just like do your best and then come talk to her at the end. So for example, there was one I didn't really know what to say. It was like, what is critical race theory, and why should it be taught, and like what's an example of like something that you could learn from it? And I like didn't know what they wanted the answer to, you know? So I just asked her about that one, and the answer
So you guys get the point, right? These people are auditioning for these roles. Here's another one. He's getting paid $25 an hour. Does that sound like an organic grassroots movement to you?
Like, and how many like hours?
How much you getting an hour?
25 cents.
25, right?
Yeah. We're getting 25 an hour.
25 bucks. Hey, you know what? I would do some crazy shit for 25 bucks.
Oh, I got you.
25 bucks an hour. Who's paying him? Here's Vince Langman. Bill Maher is such a phony hypocrite. He complains about the radical left nonstop. Then he goes out and votes for them every time. Yeah, makes no sense. Wokeness may be rebranding itself. What's this from Timcast News?
I mean, even if the policy I think that we'll see woke come out with a new face. I think this is just the beginning. We're only 2 months in.
I mean, even at the policy level, I don't even necessarily know if you could say that he defeated them, because a lot of it is these companies are just shifting definitions. They're making their corporate structure around these types of policies even more opaque and hard to define. So it gets reimagined as bridge rather than DEI, things like that. But stuff like this, it's kind of analogous to what's going on in Hollywood, which is Disney is currently under investigation by the FCC because they believe that they're still engaging in these types of racially based DEI policies. But at the level of the studios and what they're creating, most of them are still all in on creating stuff like this. The only reason some of it was gutted was because a lot of the studios that were at least a little bit smarter understood that the money was not going that way. So it just gave them it let Trump be the excuse to get rid of it. But like
because they're all going broke. Yeah. No Hollywood woke movies for me. Here's Elon Musk 24 hours ago. The problem is the puppet masters, not the puppets, as the latter have no idea why they're even there.
So what makes Trump a fascist? What makes Trump a fascist?
He does things without
You gotta talk loud. I don't have my mic on.
I'm not really good into interviews. Stuff like that.
Sorry?
He just doesn't. He just does everything he wants, and not following laws or he's a convicted felon. That's all I know.
But your sign says he's a fascist, and I'm just curious what makes him a fascist.
One of the things is that he's trying to control the media, right?
Say that again?
He's trying to control the narrative.
How is he trying to control the media? Doesn't every president try to control the narrative?
They try to control their own narrative, but one of the things that Trump has done, for example, is the renaming the Gulf of Mexico, and then not allowing the Associated Press to come into the White House. Basically, trying to get...
Well, that's because the Associated Press refuses to adhere to his statutory authority to rename it. These people are brainless. Okay, there's more, I guess, right? Oh, here's Mark Cuban, admitting the only reason he supported Kamala was because she wasn't Donald Trump.
Considering how... Tell us and remind us why you were so supportive of Kamala Harris and the Democratic Party, considering how chaotic things looked, and we ultimately learned that side of the aisle was.
Because she wasn't Donald Trump.
Simple as plain? Just that simple? If it were anybody else other than Donald Trump, let's say, for example, it was Nikki Haley. Let's say, for example, it was Ron DeSantis or Chris Christie, even a Vivek Ramaswamy or somebody. Are you saying that you may have thought differently?
I voted for Nikki Haley in the Texas primary.
I got you. So you would have voted for her for presidency if she had won the Republican nomination?
There was a lot more to learn, right? You can't just, jump based off of what was happening to the point of the primaries. I didn't agree with everything she said, but I certainly would have considered it. And look, I like Kamala. I don't want to throw her under the bus. Sure. I think she's smarter than people give her credit for, but I think she was really held back by her team. They would not let her do just basic things that would have made a lot of difference.
Tell us and remind us why you were so...
Oh, Mark Cuban. Oh, boy. What else? Panelists on the big weekend show analyze Barack Obama's latest speech, urging Democrats to sacrifice to resist Trump.
It has been easy during most of our lifetimes to say you are a progressive and not have to pay a price for it. Now we're at one of those moments where, it's not enough just to say you're for something. You may actually have to do something and possibly sacrifice a little bit.
Sacrifice what? Your Tesla that you bought? I don't know what he's talking about.
Oh, well, he's talking to a college audience there, which I think is worth noting, and why some of the applause lines that he hits actually got applause. He goes into some of the things that are happening across the country and how people should be pushing back, and not just the students, but entities. He says if you're a law firm being threatened, you might have to say, okay, we'll lose some business. But then he goes on, if you're a university, you may have to figure out, are we in fact doing things right? Have we violated our own values, our own code, violated the law in some fashion? If not, you're being intimidated. He goes on to say, we'll stand up for what we believe in, and we'll pay our researchers for a while out of that endowment. We'll give up the extra wing or the fancy gymnasium, that we can delay that for a couple of years because of academic freedom. So he's going specifically at university students in this particular course of action. I think it might be better received than it was when he was scolding African-American men for lagging their support of Kamala Harris. So he knows his audience, and he's going for a group that he thinks he can mobilize.
Well, he is a former community organizer, so maybe he's getting back into that as the elections continue to lose for him. But meanwhile, speaking of Democrats, there is a civil war brewing within the Democratic Party, and it looks like the far left is taking control. So Chuck Schumer better look out. The Senate Minority Leader is losing by double digits to AOC in a new poll for the 20.
Yeah, that's kind of scary, actually. Thinking that AOC is rising. Here's more from Stephen A. Smith, finally admitting Trump is doing what he promised to do.
Former Vice President Kamala Harris, who addressed a woman. I've got to get into some high-profile Democrats that are speaking out against the Trump administration. I'll start with former Vice President Kamala Harris, who addressed a women's summit yesterday in California. The former Democratic presidential nominee, who lost to Trump in November, said the president's moves since he returned to office were largely predictable. Here's more of her remarks last night at the Leading Women Defined Summit. Quote, there were many things we knew were going to happen. I'm not going to say, I told you so. We are seeing people stay quiet. We are seeing organizations stay quiet. We are seeing capitulating to clearly unconstitutional threats. Courage is contagious, end quote. Meanwhile, President Barack Obama also had words for the administration yesterday. Obama said that he doesn't think Trump's new tariff announcement is going to be good for America. He also added that his larger concern is what he described as the White House's infringement of rights, end quote.
Yeah, what rights is he talking about? The tariffs are working, buddy. Yeah, keep trying to gaslight us, Obama. We'll keep correcting you. Whoopi Goldberg going nuts after getting exposed by Caroline Leavitt. What?
Lies that they have spewed. Realize that tens of millions of Americans do not listen to the lies that they have spewed. These women are completely out of touch with reality. And you're right, ABC should wake up. They just paid $15 million to President Trump's future library. That's a great thing for the American people.
Sources say Whoopi turned to her attorney, whispered something inaudible, then dropped her face into her hands. She stayed like that for a long moment. During recess, she wiped away tears. This wasn't the usual unshakable Whoopi. The courtroom saw something different. Someone rattled. And the trial? It's only just begun.
No, that's fake news. Don't believe it. I've seen that before. Not sure how that got in here. Here's more liberals blocking the road when then assault a Trump supporter. And then they scream. Oh, boy.
Protect the Constitution. Protect the Constitution. Protect the Constitution. Protect the Constitution. Protect the Constitution.
911. Get in the car. We're done. 911. 911. 911. Sir, you're out of your car. You jumped out of your car because you are blocking the traffic. Please go. No, he's going to take off. I got it on camera. Yeah, this is really good for the people of traffic compassion. Fuck off. Get deported. I got it on camera. I need help in the courthouse. There's a man out here with guns. He's going to jail. Point blank. You guys are blocking the traffic. I try to circle my block, and you fucking fascist. Fascist.
Oh my goodness, man! These people are out of their freaking minds. Stephen Colbert. Uh-oh, what happened here? Stephen Colbert kicked off his late show monologue on Thursday by staring into the camera and pleading with the cabal of financial and government elites who pull the strings behind the scenes to intervene as President Trump announced reciprocal tariffs. Yeah, he was begging for the deep state to take out Trump. Wonder where he's getting his talking points from. So as Colbert opens his monologue, begging the deep state to pull the strings to stop Trump, folks, it's not comedy, it's a confession. Barack Obama is pleading with Democrats to sacrifice to resist Trump, while Bill Maher constantly complains about the radical left and votes for them anyway. Even Stephen A. Smith had to admit Trump is doing exactly what he promised. Meanwhile, Whoopi Goldberg melting down on national television when confronted with facts. Liberals block roads, assault Trump supporters, and then scream when confronted. The entire ecosystem is unraveling. Their policies have failed, their leaders are compromised, their media shield is cracking, and their base sees the truth. So here's what everybody's wondering. If Democrats need to pay people to protest and lie about economic success, do they have any genuine support left among working Americans? Drop a comment below. Make a statement with a Next News t-shirt or hat, available now in our merch shop, shop.nextnewsnetwork.com.